We'll begin by introducing the new letter-sound correspondences through a word building activity. Now, everything I'm going to be explaining will be found in the workbook for the procedures here, Build Words. And everything I'm going to be saying is listed here, so you can go ahead and have that next to you when you're working with the student. Now, because literacy is based on oral language, we want the student to be doing a lot of talking during all of the activities that we're doing. And we want to always start with speech because that's what kids come to us with. They understand words and how to speak, and we use that and harness that to teach them how to then take those words and turn them into symbols on a page. So we'll begin by bringing the child's attention to the first picture. And we'll want to use it in a sentence to give it some context. We'll want the student to say the word, and we want the student to think about how their mouth is moving as they're saying the word. So if I said to a child, we're going to learn how to spell the word mat. I wipe my feet off on the mat when I come home. Let's say the word mat and feel how your mouth is moving. And you could even show the child a little mirror and have them look at how their mouth is moving as well, but they can also feel it with their hands. So when they say mat, their lips are together on their mouth is going to open on ah. So anytime you're saying a vowel sound, your mouth will open, and then their mouth will close again on that t, and they can feel their teeth are or their tongue will be kind of behind the teeth in mat. That t sound is the tongue right behind the teeth. So many kids at this stage cannot hear that the word mat can be broken into 3 sounds. So if you say to a child, what are the sounds in mat? They might say to you, mat, because they can't hear that there's more than one sound. So bringing their attention to how their mouth is moving can help them feel when there's a new sound. So you can have them say the word slowly and feel that. So I'm going to walk you through the procedure. It's say it, tap it, map it, write it. And you'll see that we're going to repeat this, especially in the early lessons. We're going to do 4 of these. As you get to later lessons, it'll just be 2, and then you'll have some other activities to do. But when we get to that, you'll have a different video to watch to model that lesson. So we say the word, we use it in context. Now, as I said at this point, most kids cannot hear the 3 sounds. So you're going to model and say, watch me say the sounds in mat. And as I say each sound, I'm going to tap the numbers because there are 3 sounds in mat. So watch me first. M, a, t. Now you try, and then the child will do it. M, a, t. So it's a lot of you're doing it, and the student is then going to echo you and do it. Now let's look at how to write each letter. And I have the letters here for you. If you're not sure about letter formation, proper letter formation, I have in the appendix handwriting prompts that can help the student with handwriting, because sometimes just hearing the verbal directions can help the student. So let's look at the first sound in mat. This is how we show Watch me write Okay, and then the student can copy it. Now, what you might want to do is you can show them how to do it on here, and then the child has a chance to copy it over. Because at this point, you're not only introducing the sound, but you're showing them how to form the letter. So we want to do this kind of one sound at a time, have them see you form the letter, and then they can copy it. So now we have the sound in mat. Now we need the second sound in mat. You can really hold on to that ah to help them hear. So now we have what sound? Ah. Now we have ah. Let's look to see how we're going to spell ah. Watch me. I'm going to curve around, push up, pull down. That's one of the verbal cues. And that's the ah sound. So you're going to model it and then ask the student to trace over it and write the ah. So now we have ma, but we need one more sound. Mat. So now we're going to do that t sound. Watch me. I'm going to show how to do the t sound, and then the child is going to copy it. So let's take a look at what we have now. So we have we've now segmented the sounds. We have mapped. When I say mapped, we're talking about mapping the sound to the letter. So we're taking the sound, we're showing the picture of the sound, because really that's all letters are, pictures of sounds. So we now have a picture for a picture for and a picture for t. Okay, so at this point, we want to review the sounds. Let's say the sounds in mat. T. Okay, now watch me blend the sounds together. Mat. Now you try, and the student can copy. Mat. Okay, now many kids at this point need to blend the first two and then add the third. I'll show you what this looks like. Mat. Mat. Because many kids at this point don't have that phonological working memory, which is that ability to hold the sounds for a short time and keep them in the right order and then give them back. So we can do that blending two and then adding that last one to blend the whole word together. We also really want to make sure when we're blending the words, we're really holding on to those sounds. That's called continuous blending, when the air continues. Mat versus at, where we're kind of hopping. Okay, so then once the child has, now we've used the word in context, we've tapped it to segment the sounds, we've mapped it, so we've learned our handwriting. Now we're going to say it and we're going to write it again. Mat. Okay, and then you're just going to go ahead and repeat that process for each of the pictures on the page. Next, we have the sound swap game. Now you'll find the sound swap lists at the bottom of the sentence pages. Now you'll see two lists. One, you definitely want to make sure you do at that time, and then there's a second list for you to do for extra practice, maybe on another day. And then the letters that you will need for these activities are listed there. Now, I have just some really simple pieces of paper that I wrote the letters with a marker, but you can buy letter tiles or plastic letters on Amazon very inexpensively. So if you want to make that investment, you could do that as well. Now, the way this works is that the child will read the word. So you'll start by giving them a word and they read that word. So the first word is bat. Okay, now at this point, the child might need to be very slowly, like read it slowly, such as b, at, and they might even have to do at, bat. Okay, so at this stage, it's very slow. That's what you're going to expect. Now, what we want is for the child to listen to what's changing, what sound is changing, and they're going to change one sound and one spelling to make a new word. Now, I'm going to point to the letters and drag, and if I'm across from the child, I'd be just pointing above the letters. If you're sitting next to the child, then you would point, below. But you're going to use the list. This is for your eyes only. This is not for the child to see. This tells you what words you're going to do. So you're going to start with bat, then ask the child to change bat to fat, and then fat to mat, and mat to map, and so on until they get to the end. So they're changing one letter, one sound. So I'll show you what this might look like. So you'd say to the child, read the first word, they read it, bat. At this stage, many children need to blend the first two sounds before putting on the last one. Change bat to fat. And then the child has to say fat. And then when they do that, they'll notice that this is not f, so that they need to then make it f. And they do that by moving one of the letters. Now we have fat. Now they're going to read it. Fat, fat. Now change fat to mat. And again, the child's going to touch and say mat. And realize that's not and this is they need to switch it. Now read the word. Mat. Change mat to map. Now this is harder because now we're asking for that final sound to change. And this child should say map to figure it out. Map. Oh, that's not the p. I need to make it up. There's my p. Now I'm going to read it. Map. Okay. Now map to tap. Okay. Tap. Tap. So every time the child makes a new word, you want them to read the word back. Change tap to sap. And the child's going to tap, sap, and see what is changing, and it's going to be that. Read the word, sap, sap. Change sap to cap. Cap. Change cap to cat. Okay, and read the word cat. Change cat to pat. And the student reads the word pat. Now, I only give about, most lists have about 10 words, but this is a great activity. You could repeat this every day if you wanted to. This is a great one because it's practicing segmenting. It's helping the child hear the different sounds in the word, connecting the letters to the sounds, reading back the word. So it's really a fabulous activity. You could kind of keep going and doing more letters. And then as the child progresses throughout the levels, it's going to get more complicated. They'll have to change the vowel sound. Eventually, they're going to have letters that have adjacent consonants or consonant clusters, and that becomes more difficult. So as they progress, the task will become more challenging. Now we have the sentence reading activity, and you can see the first few are done, and I'll just go ahead and show you how to do this with the last one. So the first thing we want to do is have the student, again, start with that oral language, identify the picture. So this is a picture of a fat cat. Now, in this example, you could choose to have the student write the word fat or the word cat. It's really up to you because either one of those would work. But since they already practiced the letter C, I probably would do the word fat. So this is a picture of a fat cat. So I would ask the student, what's the missing sound here? And fat. And then the child's going to fill it in and say f as they write it. And I always tell the kids when your pencil's moving, your mouth is moving. So you want to make sure they're always saying and writing the sound at the same time. And then an optional step after they've written the missing letter and read the word fat is to find it in the sentence. And you can have them highlight it. Kids love highlighters, so that's just sort of an extra step, but the kids usually really like that. Then they're going to read it in the context of a sentence. Now, if you have a word that's underlined like this, it means it's irregular. So at this point, the kids only know that the letter A can be a, but in this word, it's a. So you just tell them the word. Tell them, say here, and then the child's going to read fat, fat. And then you can prompt them, what do we have so far? Fat. What's the next word? Cat. So what do we have so far? Fat, cat. What's our last word? Sat, sat. Read the whole sentence. Fat, cat, sat. Okay, so that's what that looks like. For the sentence reading activity, we're just going to fill in the missing letter, read the word. We can highlight it, and then we're going to read the word in the context of a sentence. Now we have the phoneme grapheme mapping activity. Before students begin reading and mapping the words, they're going to do a quick warm-up by tracing the letters and saying the corresponding sounds. And I also want to point out that you'll see anything that's a new letter sound spelling, you're going to have a capital introduced there. We don't spend as much time on the capital letters because most of the time students are writing lowercase letters. So we will introduce it, but it's not the focus. Now you'll notice that there's a little dot to show the students where they're going to be beginning their stroke. But if you need more information, there's handwriting information in the appendix. So take a look at that and that'll give you some guidance if you're unsure. So the student will trace the letter, say the sound, B. You'll show how to form the capital, and then the child will trace and say B. K, k, f, f. m, p, s, t. Okay, so that'll just provide a quick warm-up and a retrieval practice so the child is retrieving the sound to get ready for the activity to come. The first one will always be done for you, just so you know how to map it. And when we say phoneme grapheme mapping, basically what we're doing is we're taking the phoneme or the sound that is coming out of your mouth and we're mapping it to the grapheme, which is that visual picture of the sound. So the grapheme is the actual letter, it's what we see, and the phoneme is what we say and hear, it's the sound. So we're mapping the letter and the sound. So what we want to do is really encourage that blending. So we want the student to really stretch those sounds and hold on to it. Sat, sat. So the air will flow from one sound into the next. Now, some students might need to say the first sound and the second sound, blend that, and then add the last one. And I'll show you what I mean. So some kids can just go right into the sat, sat. Others might need to do sat, sat. So that's kind of blending the sounds together as they go. Say the first sound, say the second sound, put it together, and then add on that last sound. But the key is we really want those sounds going together and blending versus doing the s, a, t, where we're stopping after each sound. So we're going to blend it, sat, and then we're going to say it and dot it, s, a, t. Now when we do the dotting or the segmenting, we are taking that word and breaking it up into the individual sounds, and then we do want to say s, at, and kind of have like a little pause in between. And then we're going to say and write s, a, t, sat. Okay, so I'll just do a couple more examples. Cab, cab, or some kids might need to do cab, cab. Say and dot, ab, say and write ab. So I always tell the kids when your pencil's moving, your mouth is moving too. So we always want to be connecting that letter and sound. I'll do one more example. So if we're really blending those sounds, it sounds like this: map, map. Or for the student that needs to do it a little bit more slowly, map, map. Say and dot, app. Say and write, app, and read. We're always going to read it back, map. Okay, so that students should, after mapping the word, read it back. And then once they've mapped the whole thing, they can practice reading down, reading back up, just to kind of build that automaticity. Then we'll move on to the bottom where the child will read the words in the context of a sentence. So they're going to go on a little sound hunt. And I want to point out, when you see a letter or spelling in between those little slashes mean sound. So when we see that letter A between those little slashes, it's the ah sound. So those slashes mean the sound, not the letter name. So we're searching for the ah sound. So the child is going to read the word, read through each word in the sentence and highlight the ah. And I would encourage them to actually say ah as they highlight ah, 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 just to kind of get that sound in their head. And then they'll blend it. Fat, fat, cat, cat. And then I would prompt, okay, what do we have so far? Fat cat, sat, sat. And then let's read the whole sentence again. Fat cat sat. And we want the child to be pointing to each word while reading. And then if you're sitting across from the student, which I recommend when I'm working with kids in my office, I always sit across from them. And then I'm usually pointing with a pencil while the child is pointing with the finger. Okay, so it helps with the tracking. And then there's always a little task where the child will have to do something, find and circle the animal. So once they've read through all of them, they're going to read what the bookworm is saying and then find and circle the animal, which is a cat. Okay, and then also again, you'll notice we have an underlined word. So anytime a word is underlined, it's irregular or uncommon. The student won't know how to read that word. So you'll just say, this is the word the. When you get to this word, say the. And be prepared. These words take a very long time for most children to remember automatically. So some kids who are kind of quick learners, they might see it, 4 or 5 times and they've got it. Other kids might need 20 times, 30 times to see it. So every child is a little bit different. But if they get stuck, just provide them with the word and they will just continue reading. Next, the student is going to participate in a dictation task. Now, the dictation words, the target spellings, and the words are at the back of the book in the appendix. You can either photocopy it, or when it comes time to do a dictation task, you could just turn to that page and snap a picture with your phone, and then you'll know what the sounds and the words are. So that's just a quick little management tip for you if you want to choose to do it that way. There's some detailed directions here, especially when we get to words with suffixes and multisyllabic words, but we won't really need to worry about that at this point. We'll talk more about that as we get on to more challenging words. But for this, the student is going to have their dictation page, and then you're going to need to have your target spellings and your dictation words. So here's how this is going to work. There are a couple ways you can do it. For some students, you would be able to provide them with the sound and have them write it. So I'll show you what this looks like. Now, if you have a child who is a typically developing child, they could probably go this route, where you give them the sound and ask them to spell it. So the first spelling is the letter C. Now, this will have been after they've already been introduced to the letter C and the spelling for the K sound. And you would say to them, spell the letter that shows us the K sound. And the student says K and writes the letter. Okay? Spell B. And the student says B, saying right B, B. Show me how to spell F. Say F and saying right F, F. And the student would just say it and write it. Now, most kids can handle that. If you have a student who's really struggling, what you could do instead is you could give the child the letters, the target spellings, and ask the child to read them back. K, B, F, A, S, T. And that would just be a warm-up, a retrieval practice to get them ready for the spelling that they're going to be doing. Okay? So we have a couple different ways we can go about that. And it's going to depend on the level of the student you're working with. Now, we don't have a lot of words at this point. We're only going to be dictating 4 words. We're going to do one at a time. Now, again, it depends on the child you're working with. So let's say you have a student, they're doing pretty well, they can segment, they can spell. So this is what it would look like. You would tell the student, spell the word cat. I have a white fluffy cat. So say the sounds in cat, and the student can use the fingers to segment the sounds. K, A, T. You also could use tokens or pennies if you want to segment that way, but I always find fingers are good because you always have your fingers with you. So the student would finger spell cat and then say and write cat. K, A, T, and read it back, cat. Now, if you have a child that cannot do that, if they try to do that, they might not be able to segment the sounds, or they might not be able to remember all the letters. You simply model and have them echo you. So I'm going to do the next example. I'm going to pretend the next word is a child that is really unable to segment by themselves. So this is how you can support them. Now we're going to spell the word bat. Say bat. And the student says bat. And I'll use it in context, like I was up at bat when I played baseball. So watch me say the sounds in bat, and then you're going to copy me. Ready? B, A, T. Now you try, and the student does it. B, A, T. Okay? Watch me write bat, and I'm going to write the word in the margin. B, A, T. Now, I'm writing it here on the margin, but you could write it on a whiteboard or wherever. You could write it at the top, just someplace where they can see it. And you let them copy. Say and write bat. B, A, T, bat. Because the child might not be ready to do it on his or her own. Now, my recommendation would be give it a try and see how it goes. If they're able to do it, great, keep going. If they're not able to do it, you model it, you have them copy you. So you're going to dictate all the words, and then when you're done, you're going to dictate a sentence, and you're going to choose a sentence. Now, where are you going to find a sentence? Well, you can choose a sentence from the bottom of the phoneme grapheme mapping. You could also choose a sentence from the story. Any sentence you think works for that student. At this point, you don't have a lot of choices. But either way, you're going to need to model how to do it. So let's say we picked the sentence. I'm going to say, the cat sat. That's the sentence I want the child to do. So I'm going to say to the student, we're going to write a sentence. I want you to say the sentence. Repeat after me. The cat sat. And the student repeats it. The cat sat. How many words do you hear in the cat sat? And the child might not hear the separate words. And if that's the case, you can help them. So let's count the words. We have the cat sat. So I hear 3 different words. The cat sat. Okay, so we could draw in some lines to help support the student. Now at this point, I'd probably only do one sentence. And what I would do is I would model it and then have the student copy. Okay, so I'm going to show you the model with the pencil and then what the student does with blue. So I would say, okay, let's write the word the. Watch me first. Notice I started with a capital T because that's how we have to begin our sentences. We have to use capital letters. Now copy mine, you try it. And then the student copies. Okay, good. So far, what do we have? We have the. Good. What's our next word? The cat sat. So watch me write cat. Notice I'm putting in a finger space. At. So far we have the cat. Now you do cat. At. Okay, what do we have so far? Let's read it. The cat. Good job. All right, let's see. What's our next one? The cat sat. Good. Let's put in our finger space. At. The cat sat. Good. Now you write sat. At. I think my spaces are a little bit too far, but anyway, you get the idea. We want to show the student the finger spacing. We want to show capitals, and we just want to model it. And then I would say to the student, okay, what do we have? Let's read it. The cat sat. Awesome. We need to put a stop sign at the end. So we're going to put a little dot. This is called a period. It tells our reader it's time to stop. Now you write in a period, and the child does it. So the point of dictation for a sentence at this point is not for the student to remember a sentence and write it. They can't do that. Most kids can't do that. The point is to show them what it means to write a sentence, how to write a sentence, that you need to start with capitals, that you need a period at the end, that you need finger spacing. So those are all things that you're modeling and showing and having the student copy. And you can go through the CUPS acronym just to introduce it, even though they can't do this themselves, to introduce it because they'll be using CUPS throughout the entire program. And so by introducing it now, it's giving them the idea of how sentences work and how to check their work after they've written it. So that is dictation. And if you have any questions, again, go back to the dictation information here. It's also included where it says dictation in the workbook. So there are different places you can go if you want to have that next to you, kind of so you have a step-by-step guide as you're going through the dictation activity. Now you're going to ask the child to read with the new sound spellings that they've learned. Expect it to be extremely slow. The stories are very basic and very repetitive because the students at this point are really sounding out sound by sound. So it probably will look something like this. Put it together, sat, sat. Okay, so it's going to be very slow. I would, as I'm sitting across from the student, I point with my pencil. I ask the student to point underneath. So it would look something like this if the child were probably reading. Sa, sam, sam. Sa, sat, sat. And then I would say, okay, great, read it again. Sam sat. Because after the child decodes each word, you then want the child to read the whole sentence to make sure they understand it and it has meaning, and then it connects with the picture. So then when you get to the, if they remember the, great. And if they don't, just tell them this is the. The cat. So what do we have so far? The cat sat. Great. Read the whole sentence again. The cat sat. So that's how slow it's going to be for most students. Now, some kids do pick up very quickly and they can read it very quickly, but most students are really going to go through the process very slowly. So just be prepared for that. Then at the bottom, you're going to do the little expand oral language activity. This is just a conversation between you and the child to get that student to talk in complete sentences, have a conversation, because again, literacy is the basis of it is oral language. So we really want our students to be able to speak in complete sentences, share their thoughts and their ideas. So I just have some prompts at the bottom to encourage that discussion. But by all means, if you think of something else you want to bring up when you're talking about the different pictures and the story that you're reading, feel free to do so.